Welcome to the Energize, Explore, Enjoy podcast, where we bring you inspiring conversations about food, fitness, and adventure, fueled by the power of the energy pods. Let's do this! Get ready to dive into the world of fitness and yoga with our special guest, Corey Behn. Join us as Corey, our production and outreach manager, takes us on a captivating journey through his own fitness and yoga experiences. From the basics of starting a yoga practice to essential tips and hacks, Corey will share his wisdom and expertise to help you embark on your own transformative yoga journey. Tune in and get ready to unlock the incredible benefits of yoga right here on our podcast. Let's roll out the mat and find our inner peace together.
Hey there, listeners. This episode is sponsored by the ever-amazing KG Food Company's Energy Pods. Are you ready for a flavor adventure? Get ready to taste white chocolate strawberry, breakfast mocha noir, and the fan favorite chocolate nova. These pods are not only delicious, but also are packed with protein, healthy fats, and minimal sugar to keep you going all day. Plus, they come with a built-in spoon for your on-the-go snacking needs. So, don't wait another minute. Head over to kgfoodco.com, kgfoodco.com, and order some energy pods to fuel your life. I graduated high school 2009 from New Tech in Napa, California, and I decided to go straight into the workforce after I graduated. I actually took a little bit of college. I didn't really care for it though, because I found it funny that I had to pay for these classes that I already had passing grades on. And of course you need to pay for those classes in order for those credits to count. I took a little bit of photography, really loved that. I've always had an artistic side to me. And through high school, studied a little bit of digital art, got really good at that, had a lot of fun. Did a little bit of business outside of high school, actually. While I was doing the photography, I had a design company. It was unnamed, actually. I just was doing it for private clients and just having fun with it. And got out of that. Kept working, paying jobs. First job was at World Market as a retail cashier guy, and started to learn a lot about interpersonal interactions in that space that I didn't get exposed to in high school. In high school, you're interacting with all your peers. This is my first taste of interacting with the real world. So started to really cut communication skills, interpersonal skills right away at World Market, Cost Plus World Market. Yeah, I did a lot of job hunt hopping, and just kind of used my 20s as self-discovery, and did a lot of traveling in my car through California. Did a little bit of traveling here and there, up in Canada even, and yeah, just used the 20s to really flesh out and have a lot of fun with my youth and energy. And around 25 is when I decided that, so I wanted to do something a little bit more solidified with my life. I was working at restaurants then. Restaurants, those of you who know, servers out there, bartenders out there, cooks, line cook, chefs, you guys know, it is a rough business. It's very difficult. You have to be on point as a performer, as a cook, as a person who brings food to the table. You have to be on point with your interpersonal skills. Again, this is like what I've already been building up to this point, working several jobs before I got into restaurants. And I saw those interpersonal skills really pay off. As a server, I was getting like 25% tips in average on each table that I waited on, 6 tables at a time, sorry. So I was making some pretty good money, developing fun interpersonal skills and communicating with all sorts of types of people, from gigantic wine corporation ownership all the way down to the mom and pops that own some shops here in Napa. So I got to interact with a really wide variety of people. And during all this time in my 20s, I was actually exploring a spiritual practice through yoga. It started off as a physical thing, and then it became a little bit more mental, spiritual as I practiced more deeply. Removed a lot of my own mental blocks through that practice, and I decided that I wanted to bring yoga to other people, because I was kind of showing my friends how to do these yoga poses because I was so excited about yoga and it brought me many benefits. I wanted to see them benefit too. Not only the physical benefits of me fixing up my ankles, knees, and low back, just from basically strengthening those areas a lot through standing poses in yoga, to the mental part of being able to stick through hard times. Finally getting around to why I'm here, and I became a yoga teacher around 25, 26, and started teaching yoga here in Napa. This is right when I started to really hit a crescendo of interpersonal skills and employing all that I have learned. And my communication skills as a teacher improved over time as well. Started teaching Mysore Ashtanga Yoga. For all of you Ashtangis out there, you know what I'm talking about. This is exactly where I met Fahad. Fahad and I met at like 5 a.m. During a Mysore session, and as I came downstairs to get him checked into class, and I told him, hey man, this is how much it costs. And you're like, all right, no problem. Threw that credit card down. I was like, cool, this guy's serious. Let's get him up. And I remember teaching and looking at Fahad and just seeing this incredibly crazy serious face in Warrior 2, and I thought my head was gonna fall off. I was like, whoa man. But turns out Fahad's a cool guy, really cool actually. I'm very good friends with him today, with you interviewing me, duh. And we got in Keto Geek because he started Keto Geek after being inspired by an awesome podcast he listened to, and he started creating these little pod things. They weren't quite pods at the time. They were these little energy bars, and bring them to the studio to have people sample them and try them out. He was just trying to do what I did, which was he found something that helped him in his life, he was inspired by, and wanted to spread the awareness and share the love with people, as I did with the yoga. Fahad was finding something that worked for him, and I really liked that about him, that he was sharing it. So I discovered that he had ghee in the products, and this was back when energy pods weren't even energy pods. They were known as chocolate ghee and walnuts ghee, and that's actually what attracted my attention. Ghee. It's like, ooh, I love making ghee. That was kind of part of my spiritual journey. Like, I studied Ayurvedic stuff through my yoga studies and learned how to make ghee, and I love making ghee. Fahad wanted to help with making these new ghee products, and so he brought me into the kitchen, and I was like, all right, man, let's look at the ghee. Looked at the ghee, and I freaked out. I was like, oh no, this is incredibly brown. This is tasting a little burnt. And why is it oxidized? And so he told me the source and all that stuff, and I gave him a sample of my ghee, and that's kind of where it all took off. Me becoming a deeper part of Keto Geek, and that also spurred even more. I changed quite a bit through Keto Geek. My values and morals in life shifted. My outlook on nutrition and fitness and health have shifted drastically as well, and I'm super thankful. To those who are listening, we're no longer known as Keto Geek. The OGs will know us as Keto Geek, but we are now KG Food Company, and man, I couldn't be more excited to be here today, Fahad. Like, it's such a good journey we've been on so far.
It's been very encouraging, promising, rewarding, all at the same time. I remember we've come a long way since the first time we crafted the product. And one question I had for you, just to sort of backtrack a little bit, is how did you first get introduced into yoga yourself? What was your first class and experience like?
Yeah, that's a fun story. So my friend Emil, we were really good friends outside of high school, both of us into physical fitness and health at the time, and we both liked working out together and doing fun stuff, and he discovered this thing called Bikram Yoga. He's like, Corey, bro, we have this class that we can do tomorrow. It's an hour and a half long. I was like, okay, cool. Hour and a half, not bad. That sounds fun. But it's in 105 degrees. I was like, what? Are you crazy, bro? He's like, yeah, I'm crazy. Let's do it. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm crazy too. So we're going to go and do this class. So yeah, Bikram Yoga was my very first class, age 19. And it was an hour and a half. I remember thinking to myself, I am actually going to die like 20 minutes into this class. I didn't know how to breathe. I felt like I was choking on thick air. The teacher was just following Bikram Yoga practitioners and teachers, you all know, they follow a script. And I thought it was very militaristic that they were following a script. And I was like, man, it's 105, it's 100% humidity. I'm sweating everything out of my body right now. I can't breathe, and this is ridiculous, but I'm going to get through it. And the teacher noticed I was having a hard time, and she reminded me, just breathe slow and breathe through your nose, and you can take a rest whenever you need. So I dropped to my knees immediately, and I was like, okay, cool, I can rest. Okay, I'm not a wuss for resting. I was given permission. So that was a revolutionary experience for me, dude. I never thought moving your body in hot air would be so tough, and doing it for 90 minutes. But I was absolutely floored and humbled at that. After class, I thought that I could handle it, but I couldn't handle it. And I came back the next day, actually. And I remembered something the teacher told me, just breathe slow, breathe through the nose and out through the nose only. And that's actually when I first started practicing pranayama without even thinking about it. For those who don't know, pranayama is breathing practice in yoga. So it was very interesting. We went into yoga with thinking I can dominate it. I ended up getting humbled.
How did you get introduced into Ashtanga Yoga, or let's just rephrase it and say, how did your journey evolve past Bikram Yoga?
Yeah. After practicing Bikram for a really long time, I was doing at one point I was doing doubles, and I was trading work to go clean the studio, and I would get free classes in exchange. The ownership changed hands at the studio a couple times. Eventually, my privileges and opportunities to do that work trade for Bikram went away, unfortunately, and I was just too poor to afford classes. So I started looking for other ways of practicing yoga because I really liked it, and discovered vinyasa. And I thought vinyasa was really cool because it was so different. And also, vinyasa was doing stuff with the upper body. Bikram, you're 100% focused on the lower body and building up a super strong foundation, which I believe is a very important thing to do, but we really cannot neglect the upper body either. So I remember down dog just being agonizing because I never really did any upper body strength training. A lot of my stuff was lower body, skateboarding, soccer, biking, running as a kid, all that stuff. So I was just done with my feet, but got the experience of vinyasa flow, and I really liked that. And I started going to a studio called Rev Yoga in Napa, and that was owned and operated by Courtney Willis. Really awesome yoga teacher here in the Napa Valley, has inspired me quite a bit to even continue flourishing in my own practice. Through vinyasa and through Courtney's studio, that's actually where I got my yoga teacher training done. So my RYT is done through there, registered yoga training, or registered yoga teacher. And I met a person named Corey Sheffer there. And Corey and Corey were practicing during Courtney's class together next to each other in the front row. And Corey took me aside after class and said, hey, I noticed you had a lot of devotion, and I loved how you practice. You were just very in it, and I can hear your breathing pattern, the way you moved, and I can feel your energy right next to me, and I really enjoyed that. I would like to invite you to an Ashtanga yoga practice. And I was like, what the heck is that? And she's like, okay, you want to find out? It's 5 a.m. On Saturday. Meet me here at this gas station. We'll drive up together and go to Berkeley and take a Ashtanga full lead primary class. And I was like, okay, cool. And I did full lead class. My very first Ashtanga was full lead.
What does full lead actually mean so people understand?
Yeah. Full lead class. So in Ashtanga, you have 6 series, and a lot of us never see what's past the second series because it's very difficult stuff. But primary series is accessible to everybody. It takes about 90 minutes to complete. It's a set of movements. You start with Surya Namaskara or sun salutations. There's 2 variations, A and B. You do standing poses, and then you transition to the floor and do floor poses. And in between each side of your body, you have to do what's called a jump back and jump through. So you have to, like, if you imagine you were L sitting on the ground, you have to plant your hands next to your hips or kind of in front of them, cross your legs in front of you so it looks like you're cross-legged a little bit, and bring those knees really close to the chest, and then lift yourself off the floor and then rotate your torso and shoot your legs back. That's a jump back. And so you land in a very close to the ground plank. That's chaturanga. And then you go through vinyasa and jump back through. So that you do that through full lead until you hit the finishing series, and that's a couple cool down poses, which are all the same across all the series. But that's the gist of that, what the series is. And when I say full lead, it is vocally led by a teacher, and each breath is actually counted in Sanskrit, and even the yoga poses are called to you in Sanskrit. So you can imagine somebody who's me, a noob to Ashtanga, sitting there and hearing Chaturanga Dandasana. I'm like, what the heck does that mean, dude? And I look around and I see everyone's like kind of in a plank pose. I'm like, okay, cool, got it. So that's exactly what full lead is. It's pretty interesting.
So that's what you took in Berkeley with Corey Sheffer, and what happened afterwards?
Yeah, so afterwards, I was like totally, kind of like my very first Bikram Yoga class. I was floored and I was shocked by the experience, and it was kind of addictive in a way. I really liked how I felt after class, and I liked the energy. And Corey Sheffer invited me to come take classes from her at what was, I think it was Orange Theory Fitness back then, before it became Bikram Yoga. So it was the upstairs portion of the studio that was devoted to yoga. And so I started taking classes from her, and I really liked it. And she taught me a little bit about what Mysore is, and then revealed to me later that she had a working deal to actually purchase the space, the studio, from Orange Theory Fitness, which I believe is a franchise fitness company. And she acquired the space, turned it into Bikram Yoga, and there Corey and I started teaching Mysore Ashtanga Yoga. Mysore Ashtanga Yoga it's not like your lead class. Mysore is named after the area that it originated in India. Mysore, or also known as Mysuru. A teacher called Patabi Joyce was teaching his students this method there, and they didn't really have a name for it while they were practicing in Mysore. It just got named Mysore outside of Mysore, India, because of how much popularity it gained with American yogis that were practicing it. Mysore is a style in which you learn one pose at a time, the primary series, the second series, third series if you're lucky, fourth to sixth. And you do it all under the guidance of a teacher in a group space, a group setting. So if you walked into your very first Mysore Ashtanga class at like 6:20 a.m. and people have already been practicing at like 5:30 a.m., you'll see that the room will be in various states of various parts and sequences of the primary series and or the second series, whatever they're working on. You see all these people moving together, and it's interesting, but instead of being the whole class led at once, you get individualized teaching from the teachers that walk around in a Mysore class setting.
Awesome. Quick question, real quick, and you have to be honest with me on this one, really honest with me, and I want the truth and nothing but the truth. So you work behind the scenes at the Bikram studio. I want to know that when you guys leave the studio, do dead people resurrect themselves and practice yoga?
It's totally possible. There's a couple times I was there after dark, because I used to work for that studio, and I would close, and you'd hear some funny stuff upstairs, and maybe there's some spirits doing some wicked moves. I don't know, man.
I heard the rumor, man. Maybe Corey just has all the secrets and she never told us.
Perhaps and she probably has all this stuff recorded somewhere.
Yeah, all these paranormal sounds.
Yeah.
I think Peter and Amy, the current owners, probably brought in the Ghostbusters, or went Ghostbuster style and cleaned it up, probably.
Perhaps, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So next question is, now we live in the age where a lot of people go on Yelp and look for reviews when they want to bring some new activity into their life, be it yoga or any sort of physical activity in general. Many times we are so disconnected that we like to overthink a lot of the times about what we want to incorporate in our lives. So since you have been exposed to yoga for such an extensive period of time and taught countless people, how do you recommend, like, what kind of research people should do and how they should delve into if they really want to start yoga? I get this question all the time from a lot of my friends. They want to know, I want to go to yoga, but I need some friends to go with me, or how do I even get started? I need to buy some equipment. So how do they approach with this? And you have to factor in that some people are perfectionists. They want to go in there with the most perfect looking appearance or looks or whatever. So can you cater to those kind of people who want to do things perfectly and also the people who just want to start off very minimalist?
Yeah, you got it. Actually, Corey Sheffer and I in our Mysore practice, we recognized those people. There were perfectionists, and we call them the A's, and then there were people that show up and they did the work. And we called them B's. But yeah, getting you perfectionist. We'll start out with the A people. Getting the perfectionist set up. I'm going to be minimalistic at first. You just need clothes that you can move in, free range, that are comfortable to wear and that are breathable, because you will get sweaty. And you need a yoga mat. I recommend getting a nice yoga mat because if you get a cheap one from like Target, Walmart, or any of the brands that, like, you can really feel it. There's thickness to these mats. If you get, I don't want to name brands, but let's just say a Target or Walmart brand mat, those things will shred within like a month. They will shred fast. So I recommend doing a little research, finding out what kind of mat to get. And there are really good ones. The thicker the better generally, because you're going to get more material. It's going to last longer. You may want a couple yoga blocks because when you start yoga, you're going to be using muscles that you've probably never heard of or never felt once before in your whole body, never stretched, never activated once. Yoga blocks are going to bring the floor closer to your hands, or they elevate the floor for whatever reason. If you're sitting on a block on the ground, it might be easier for someone to sit on a block and stretch their hamstrings rather than try to stretch their hamstrings sitting flat on the ground with their legs straight. Some people can't even straighten their legs fully. That's how tight their hamstrings and low back is. So yeah, grab yourself a mat, some comfortable clothes, a block or 2 blocks, and a strap. Those are pretty useful too, especially for if you have really, really tight shoulders, tight hamstrings, or that can mean weakness, or it can be even, I've taught people who are just absolutely muscle bound. Like, I have to use my whole body to adjust these people because there's so much muscle in the way to get them into the expression of the pose where they're actually stretching or using the right muscles. You have to give them a little assistance with your hands, or you can teach it with a strap. You can teach it with the block. Lastly, probably just grab yourself a water bottle or something that you can hydrate easily with the straw.
2 things I really liked about when I started doing Ashtanga Yoga, and perhaps people can find it useful, this is just me of course, is I had this one strap that would wrap around the mat. I think you've seen it, and it had a little tiny pocket in it, and in that pocket you could have like a small notebook in there. You could carry or put your wallet or your phone in there as well while you're in your class. I found that very useful. And another thing that was really helpful in a small pouch like that was that you could carry a small towel and a cleaning detergent with you that you like the smell of, and then you could wipe the mat after using it, and you're really sweaty. So I thought those were things that I've personally found useful. But are there any little things that in your yoga practice that you found very useful and you would like to share with other people as well?
Yeah, I would say physically what really helped me was getting let's throw it out there for the extra sweaty ones. I know you're out there. I was one of those people before I adapted to lots of movement, but get yourself a yoga rug or a yoga towel. It just goes on top of your mat, and it provides more traction for you so you don't slip around on a sweaty mat. And also the underrated a small hand towel or a rag of some sorts, or even you can double it up and use it as two tools. Instead of getting a strap, you just get an extra long towel, and you can use that as a strap and a towel. And a towel is useful because you can wipe sweat if you need to, take care of that stuff. If you were to look at my practice, though, there's nothing around me. I'm pretty minimalistic, and I utilize everything that I've learned about my body. You do need to practice for a really long time to get to that point. And outside of the physical thing, what every single aspiring yogi should do, you guys need to find a teacher that resonates with you. This is really important. I'm sure you've gone through your high school, you've gone through elementary, you've gone through college. I bet you can remember teachers that have impacted your life. And those teachers impacted you because they were able to transfer wisdom, knowledge, and experience to you with no friction.
When you go to a new yoga studio, what kind of questions should you be asking your teacher to sort of gauge that they'll be compatible towards what you want out of your practice?
Good questions to ask your teacher.
Like, what if you were like there, and what would you ask your teacher, for example?
Yeah, I would ask, what can I do? Because a lot of yoga in the US, it's all led stuff, and it's not really private yoga where you get hands-on attention. You go to a class and it's all led, and you get general cues. So what I would ask my teacher is, hey, like, is there any resources I can tap into? Is there any anywhere else, like a book or a movie or a video that you have learned from that inspired you to become better in your practice? What can I learn from what you've learned from? And basically you're trying to figure out like what they have learned, where they have learned it from. And I believe that's a very powerful tool to be able to, when your teacher is able to provide those resources to you, because it tells you that they're well learned and well studied and they actually care. And when you have a teacher like that who's doing research outside of the class, like serious research, especially in physiology, not exactly trying to get a degree in it, but perhaps taking courses to further their understanding of the human body, this is a really, really good thing to see in a teacher.
Yeah. I remember when I started doing Ashtanga, I came from a very practical and businessy sort of perspective. And I think some of the guys, maybe more so the guys, are very much interested in very segmenting everything and learning about the deep. They were like, how is this going to work out? Like, everything needs to be known. So I went to Corey, and she was very kind enough to accommodate me and took some time out to show me the studio. I asked her a question, like, for example, how long does the class take? What do I need to know about the class? What kind of things do I need to get for myself? What can I wear? I know everybody said that, you don't really need to worry too much about what you're wearing, just be on the mat. But at the same time, some of us, or many people actually, want a confirmation, a physical confirmation from somebody that they're going to work with. It happens in all aspects of business. I need to meet my suppliers before I make a $1 million deal. So it's kind of like that, but in a very simple mannerism for some of the people. Which brings me to a very interesting question. What is something that you might have noticed are challenges that people face during some of their yoga practices?
Oh, man. My favorite challenge to watch people overcome, and this generally does happen, is when they first start out, they're like watching everyone around them and they're trying to like perfect themselves, and then you see them silently beating themselves up on the mat. This is probably more exclusive to someone who taught like I did, which was my store style, where it wasn't led and I had a bunch of people all practicing at the same time, but they were all doing their own thing in a series that I taught them. And when I watched people overcome the perfectionist mindset and drop into their own body, into their own mind, into their own breath, their practice was beautiful, dude. Some people were just floundering and slipping and sweating and all this stuff, but it was their practice. They weren't watching anyone else. They were kind of just wrestling with their own mind, their own demons, you could say, I guess. And what Corey and I like to call it was the monkey mind. you're finally able to quiet down and quiet down the chatter. That's what we're really trying to do in yoga, is cut the noise out in the mind and just be present. And that's what Ashtanga really was all about, being present on the mat, being there for you.
You know, that's so interesting and relatable with me. When I practice Ashtanga, I wear glasses when I practice yoga. I tried contacts, but that didn't work out too well for me because sweat starts getting into your eyes. So at the start, when I started doing all of this, I thought it was a bit of something that would be a hindrance. However, over time, I began to appreciate that I couldn't see anything in the class. My practice was very ethereal. It was as if there was a fog around me and I couldn't see anyone. And I loved that because I cared only about my practice, as selfish as that sounds. At the same time, my intention was not only just to have my own practice, but was to give others, to inspire others.
Hey listeners, before we jump back into our fascinating conversation, let's take a moment to appreciate the delicious goodness of KG Food Company's Energy Pods. These delightful pods come in a variety of amazing flavors, like white chocolate strawberry, breakfast mocha noir, and the ever popular Chocolates Nova. And they're not just tasty, they're also packed with protein, healthy fats, and minimal sugar to keep you fueled throughout the day. Perfect for when you're on the go, these energy pods even come with a built-in spoon for your convenience. So, go ahead and treat yourself to these mouth-watering pods that'll make your taste buds dance. Visit kgfoodco.com, kgfoodco.com to grab your favorite flavors. And now, let's get back to our inspiring guest.
To make sure that they feel good about their practice as well, and they don't have to beat themselves up over something. Because you've seen how I practice. I was flipping like a crazy maniac sometimes.
Watching your practice, I secretly nicknamed your practice, and it was the Fahad explosions, because you would go into poses and you would hold them for your 5 short breaths, and then you would pardon my language, you would explode out of that pose and just throw it in the garbage. You're like, I'm done with this.
Oh man,
that was your practice.
Well, if anybody who's from that class is listening to this podcast, first of all, I am really sorry about that kind of explosion. And then I would like to thank you for being so patient and being part of this journey with me. So that was freaking amazing. So yeah, I mean, is there anything else we can talk about yoga that you think we might have not covered? Because that's something that has played a very important part of your life.
Yeah, I think that I'll just leave this, the listeners of this message. If anyone out there is considering practicing yoga, if at whatever reason it warmed its way into your head, go start practicing. Go grab a mat, get some cozy clothes. Usually yoga studios are going to be well equipped with everything you need, from blocks to straps, probably even some sort of, they have sanitizing fluid even afterwards. I know Fahad touched on that, and that's actually an important part of practice, is cleanliness. But yeah, there's a lot more to yoga than just the physical aspects. And through the physical aspect, we begin to access the inner realms of ourselves and the inner realms of yoga, in a sense. Can totally save that for another podcast, as I can go forever on that topic. But the main message here is that yoga draws your focus inward. And I think, Fahad, you kind of had a blessing in disguise of the glasses coming off, and you're having an inner world applied to you right away, and you're not seeing anyone else, which is kind of nice. But yeah, I leave you guys with that message. If you're an aspiring person that wants to go for some yoga, draw your senses inward and enjoy.
Another aspect of any sort of physical training or spiritual training or workout or any of that sort is the social component of it. And I think, is there something that comes in the yoga community where you can feel like you're part of something, where you can talk to like-minded people outside of the classroom and not just on the mat as well? Are there opportunities for that too?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to keep it yoga, that's in the class or anything. There's people who do offer like literal outdoor yoga, which is pretty cool. But typically, it's just like anywhere you are in life. The yoga studio is going to be similar. Typically in a yoga studio, you're going to run into people who are pretty level-headed. They are very kind, nice right off the bat. And if you make friends with them, you can, just like anything in life, exchange numbers and do things you like to do together. Cook an Ayurvedic meal, go on a hike, probably go and explore different yoga studios, which is pretty fun to do with your yoga buddies, actually. I loved doing that because you get to go experience with your friends. You bring a part of your community to another yoga community, and you get to drive with those people too. And I found that really fun, honestly. I did a lot of extra training, you can say. I sought out special classes, and I sought out special teachers within the Ashtanga Yoga realm, and discovered that was a fun aspect of it all, community-wise.
When you were doing hardcore yoga, and maybe you don't need to go back to the past, but for example, I'll give you an example for myself. When I used to do yoga, I would take a pre-workout before the yoga. I know it's out of place, and usually you take a pre-workout before a gym workout usually. So is there something that you used to do specifically for your yoga class that really stood out when it comes to either nutrition or lifestyle?
Sleeping is super important because especially when you're first starting any physical practice, focus on recovery because your body's just simply not used to doing this stuff. So sleep and eating good, obviously here. And my rituals before class, I like taking a hot shower, and some days I would actually hop on my bike and ride my bike to class before I took yoga. That would properly warm my body up and make sure all the synovial fluid in the joints were present and there. Nothing was like really creaking by the time I got to the yoga class. I didn't really take any crazy stimulants before class. I didn't take pre-workout, but I did like having a cup of coffee or an espresso because it's lower in liquid volume and very high in caffeine. So you wouldn't have to take a pause out of your class and go use the restroom, which always sucks. So think of those things. And also you might want to eat something that's very digestible, easy, and light because you will be turning yourself into a pretzel. And I'm pretty sure the CrossFitters know, but you probably shouldn't eat too much before CrossFit because they work out hard, and we know what they do sometimes. They lose their lunch.
All right, now it's story time for a moment. What are something during your fitness and yoga career that really, like a story, something that stood out and you were like, wow, that's a memory to be kept for a while? I know we talked about the first class that you ever took, which probably stands out, but was there like one day during your yoga class like, oh man, something crazy just happened, and I was like, I need to keep this stored forever in my mind? That's that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. There's so many. I just don't know which one to bring forth.
The funniest one.
Well, the funniest one honestly involves you. And it'll never leave my mind. Okay. You remember Halloween?
Oh shit.
Okay, so I'll tell you a fun story then, because this was a day where I was feeling a little wonky. Woke up as normal for my 4:30 practice. To disclose a little bit, I had to start teaching at like 5:30, 6 a.m. So I would have to start my practice at 4:30 a.m. and then I would start teaching. And then after all that, I would have to go work my 8-hour day. So I literally didn't have time to practice. But I remember just having an uneasy sleep the night before this class, and I woke up kind of on the wrong side of the bed. And I was in my head. I was very in my head. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to just crush second series. And I'm just going to smash away these worries that I have in my mind right now. And I was very, very, very ultra serious about my practice. And I was like feeling really good and I was very, very internal. And I was going through second series. So this is after practicing my first series. I was already like 45 minutes into my practice. And so I was going to take 15 minutes to practice some of the second series and 15 to do closing and get ready to teach. And I look up from second pose on second series, and here is Fahad in full Star Wars regalia in a hot yoga class. He's wearing a Kylo Ren mask, a robe, and everything. And I just lost all of my focus. And I just started laughing, and my breathing was all wonked and messed up. But I realized that, I needed that. I needed some lightness in my life. And this is probably something you have observed about me, but I get really serious sometimes in life, and I lose sight of the lightness and the comedy and the humor that can come along with life. And just seeing you in Star Wars regalia in my very serious second series practice, and Corey Sheffer standing off militaristic stance in the corner, just staring and shaking her head, that had me laughing so hard. And I realized, man, life's good. We're here. Let's just have a ball.
From my perspective, that day was all about getting outside of the comfort zone and just doing something out of the ordinary. And I think there was a part of me that recognized that everybody in that classroom was like a sibling to me. I noticed that everyone in that classroom had a certain journey they were taking, and I saw those emotions, man. I didn't see them, but I could feel those.
Yeah, it's called feeling energy, man.
Yeah,
there.
So I saw that kind of mindset where sometimes people were bringing certain tensions into the room. Sometimes it was workplace politics, perhaps. Sometimes, some gal would come up to me and say that, hey, I didn't have a great day at work. Or some gal would say that, life's not great. I've had bad relationship stuff going on. And so that was me as an opportunity to sort of break that shell a little bit and say that, the best thing you can do sometimes is just laugh it out and do something fun. So that's always been the mentality, and every single person in that class at that point for me, like I said, was a sibling. There was that sort of camaraderie that made me want to do something like that for them. So that was basically my side of the crazy story. So I think we should start wrapping things up here. We dug really hardcore and used your wisdom and knowledge about yoga, because that's very important, and I think many people can really take this knowledge and apply it into their different parts of their life, whether they want to do weightlifting or they want to go do some hiking or biking. I think the principles still remain the same about asking questions and being very mindful about what you're doing and so forth. So is there any last message you have over here before we get into the final plugs?
Yeah, we've made it through the yoga stories of a lifetime on this podcast, and if we were to extract anything out of that, I say if you are hard on yourself, soften up. Just soften up a little bit. Give yourself some love, some compassion, a pat on the shoulder, a pat on the back. Because at the end of the day, you are your best fan, and you're probably the last person you're talking to at the end of the day. And I think it's very important that you find inner peace, because that makes you fully available to help everyone that you love around you.
Sounds great. How can people find you or reach out to you if they have any questions or want to engage with you?
Yeah, I have a public Facebook page. You can find me there. Just search my name, Corey Behn, COREYBEHN. I'll respond to messages over there. If you guys have some questions about yoga, please feel free to reach out. Or you can just touch base on perhaps my email if you wish, COREYNOMAES@gmail.com. Corey Nomays, I'm pretty sure Fahad will just drop that in show notes. That's a general email. It's not my private email, but it's general. Go ahead and email that if you have some questions and you want to learn a little bit more about yoga or whatever.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you for being on the show. And in the future, we will talk about other stuff besides yoga as well. There's a lot to excavate.
Perfect.
Now that the episode is over, get ready for our next captivating conversation. In our upcoming episode, we'll be joined by Michael Buxton, the visionary behind Fat Bike America. Prepare to be inspired by his incredible journey and unwavering passion for adventure on two wheels. Stay tuned for an episode that will ignite your wanderlust and leave you motivated to pursue your own remarkable calling. Don't miss out our upcoming episode with Michael Buxton of Fat Bike America. Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate, review, and subscribe to our Energize, Explore, Enjoy podcast on your favorite podcasting platform. See you next week.